Okay, I'm back, everybody. Having a few little technical difficulties, but honey, the show must go on and we're going to keep on moving. So, what I was saying before I was so rudely cut off by my phone was I was talking about how I had spoken with my father my senior year of high school, and I was telling him that, I didn't want to work because I wanted to focus on my academics and focus on my studies, get my GPA up as high as possible. And honestly, I had been working since, like I said, I was 13 or 14 years old. And I mean, frankly, I just really didn't feel like working. And, in my eyes, my dad was doing much better than my mother was. Now, with my mom, it was kind of like, okay, honey, you're gonna have to work, honey. If you think if you're gonna get the things that you need, you're gonna have to work. Fine, I'm not the only person that had to work, and I don't begrudge that. Um, but my dad was a teacher and all this stuff. We lived in a house, and so I'm thinking, hey, let me just discuss it with him. So, long story short, I did discuss it with him, and he agreed that, I wouldn't have to work because I remember I worked at Wendy's. So, I quit my job thinking that, hey, I'm going to focus on my studies this year as a senior, and everything's going to be great. I didn't even think about, participating in any extracurricular activities. But, even though my GPA wasn't that high, because I wasn't that, not that I wasn't into academics or whatever, because like I said, I've always been smart, but I was still taking AP classes, AP English, AP algebra, AP chemistry, so it wasn't like I didn't have, classes that weren't challenging, just weren't that challenging to me. But then I can't remember when it was. It might have been a week or two after school started. My dad says to me, "When are you getting a job?" So I'm like, "What?" Because I'm like, didn't we discuss this? I was like, okay, I came to you and told you that I didn't want to work, my senior year, because, I've been working all this time and I want to focus on my academics. And so you agreed and said, okay, you don't have to work. And it wasn't like I really needed anything. I mean, besides like personal things like, feminine hygiene items, stuff like that. Oh, I guess clothes if you want to. I mean, if I needed any clothes, because it wasn't like I didn't have any clothes, but because I had been working, all these years, I just bought my own clothes. So I guess, thinking about my senior year, the only things I probably would have had to pay for were my senior dues. I'm not sure if I had to pay for school lunch, maybe that, but I didn't have to pay for transportation because I could take the school bus to school, or I could walk. It was a little bit of a walk, but honey, I used to miss the bus all the time and walk, so it was possible. It wasn't that far. And so other than that, I didn't really have any expenses. So, I'm confused because I'm like, I, asked you if it was okay if I didn't work. I didn't want to work, and you said yes, and then you come back and act like we didn't have the discussion, and you ask me, when am I getting a job? So I got a job. So that's when I started working at Crystal's. The stories I could tell. Crystal's, baby, on Moreland Avenue, off the chain. So that was one account of how, just building my mistrust of adults, and how I started to, be conditioned to believe that, adults won't support you, or people won't support you. They'll tell you that they're going to support you, but they're really not going to do it. So that was one incident. And then there was another incident with my father again. Like I said, honey, I was all on my academics for my senior year. And I remember, now this is back in the day. I graduated from high school in 1993. And I don't know if you guys remember, but they had these Brother word processors. So it looked like an electric typewriter, and they had like one little line where you could type and see what you were typing, and then, and then it would type it across the paper. So, I had to do papers and stuff. and I wanted to present them, typed. And so I asked my dad, would he get me the Brother word processor? And he told me no. I don't remember him giving me any reason why. I just accepted it. And the fact that he told me no, that he wouldn't get me the Brother word processor, isn't what stabbed me in the heart, honey. What stabbed me, I'm being a little bit dramatic, but I am dramatic. But what stabbed me in the heart, and I was just like, taken aback, and, gave me those thoughts of, what the heck is going on here, is the fact that my sister, right behind me, she asked for the Brother word processor, and he immediately bought it for her. So I'm confused. It's not like it was something that I was asking for, just playing around or whatever. I was asking for it, so I could do my best in school. And so it's like stuff like that would happen to me, and it seemed like I just couldn't get any support from the people or the person, that I'm living with you, since we're just talking about my senior year. So it's from the person who I would think that I would be getting support from. You say you're going to support me, and then you take it back. I ask you to do something, to support me. You tell me no, like you can't do it. But then my sibling asked for the very same thing in the very same year. I mean, it might have been weeks or maybe a month after that she asked for the word processor, and she got it. So, in my mind, I'm still an adolescent, although I'm 17 or 18, however old I am. Of course, I'm wondering, like, what's going on here? It's like every time I ask you for something, or I discuss something with you, you just turn me down or shoot me down or tell me one thing and turn around and tell me something else. But then if somebody else asks you, it's okay. So I'm like, okay. And this is going to be, honey, I don't know how many examples I can use, but this is going to be my last example. We ain't going to go example crazy. And then, so the last example was when I worked at Crystal's, and I remember one night, I used to get off late a lot of nights. And so I usually would call a taxi to pick me up from the Crystals and take me home. Well, this particular night, I kept trying to get a taxi and I couldn't get one. I didn't get off until after midnight. And again, like I said, this was Crystals on Moreland Avenue. And honey, all kind of stuff used to be going on in that Crystals. And at that age, I didn't even know all the things that would be going on in Moreland Avenue or at night or in Atlanta. So, thank goodness what they say, ignorance is bliss. And so I called him and asked him, can he come and pick me up from work? Now, mind you, in a car, it was only like, I would say like 5 minutes away from the Crystals. If you driving, if that long. Honeys, people, do you know that man told me he was not coming to pick me up? I'm laughing because in my mind it just sounds so crazy. And so he did not come and pick me up. I could not get a taxi. And so, did I not think back on it? The only other alternative would have been to stay there all night until, I'm trying to think, would the bus even have gotten me there? I'm not even sure because the way it was, where we lived and it was situated. But I ended up walking home. Yep, I walked home after midnight by myself in the pitch black dark because I did not have any support. Even when I haven't thought about this stuff in a long time, you see, it's kind of bringing me to tears because as a parent, especially once I became a parent, and I would think back on this stuff and I'm like, wow, as a parent, and I was a single parent, and there would, in the beginning, I wasn't making any money. So, I was struggling as well, but I always did everything that I could to support my son and to provide for him the things that he needed. I can even remember times when My son got his first job when he graduated from high school. Honey, I was running all over creation, taking him to and from work, and it didn't matter what time it was. But anyway, back to me, because we're not talking about my parenting skills and my son. But so that was what my life was. So it's no wonder I didn't trust in the adults, and it's no wonder that when someone